To help you understand the finer points while buying a property, My Property Facts endeavor has always been to provide you the most authentic and transparent information. Since buying a property worth lakhs is one of the most important decisions of your life, we bring to you experts from the industry to help you take a sound decision before investing your hard-earned money. Continuing with the same, we introduce to you Mr. Gaurang Kant, giving insights into what all things one should be aware of while getting into a real estate purchase.
There are a couple of things which you need to see before you buy any commercial or residential property. I guess the first and foremost would be the location of the property. You have to make sure that the property is free of all encumbrances, which would mean that the property is free of all lien, mortgage or any charge on the property. The other aspect which you have to see is that you have to make sure when you're buying a residential property, I'll go step by step. If you're buying a residential property, you have to make sure that the ownership, the title documents of the property and the chain of the title is in the proper format, and you have to make sure that the person who's claiming to be the owner of the property is actually the owner of the property. Now, how do you do that? Well, the first and foremost would be you have to go and verify with the registrar's office if the property is registered in the name of the person who's claiming to be the owner of the property. Once you have done that, then you have to do the other due diligences concerning the property, which would be in the form of the fact that this property is not mortgaged with any bank or any institution or any private or government institution. The person who's claiming that the property is residential is actually in conformity with the building bylaws and within the zonal plan. The other aspect which you need to do, I think, which is very important is when you're buying any residential property, you have to make sure you have to do the proper due diligence of the property, which would comprise not only checking with the sub-registrar but also making sure that the property, the owner is in physical possession of the property. The person who's claiming is actually living in the property or is having the possession of the property. The most important in the commercial property is that the mall or whichever commercial property which is coming up, you have to make sure that the property is in compliance with the zonal usage, that there is a proper sanction for its use for commercial purpose. And that is first and foremost and the most important, because then only you can purchase the commercial property. If the land usage has not been changed to commercial, then the whole idea of buying that would be absolutely futile. So the first and foremost would be making sure that the land usage has been changed to commercial. And once you have done that, they have to make sure that the person who's claiming, the developer who's out there, who's selling this property, has got all the requisite sanctions and permissions from the government agencies. There are no dues, there are no charges, there's nothing, no encumbrances on the property. You have to make sure of that. And once you're buying the commercial property, you have to also make sure that the floor area, the cover area and all those things come in a different way. So there are different methods involved when you're buying a residential and a commercial property. And I think the most important for commercial is the usage of the property. These are the two aspects which I think is important when you're buying any property. When somebody is selling the property, you have to make sure, again, selling of the property again would mean that the person who's selling the property has the right and title and ownership of the property which is claiming to be the owner of. And once you have verified, you have done your due diligence in terms of the ownership of the property, you have to further go and make sure that the property is registered in the name of the person who's claiming to be the owner with the sub-registrar's office, or if it's residential or commercial, both. And once you have done that, then I think you're aware of the ownership of the property, and then I think then you have to verify the tax implications which are there when you are buying the property. So you have to make sure that the stamp duty and other things are in accordance with the laws which are applicable, and the adequate and requisite stamp duty is paid when you're purchasing or you're selling the property. I think these are the broad guidelines which a person should keep in mind when he's actually buying or selling property. And these are the essentials which, but again, it differs on case-to-case basis. Like suppose you're buying some property, you have to make sure if it's a leasehold property, you have to make sure that the government has given the lease for the property. There are no restricting clauses in the lease deed which would mean that the property can't be sold. If it's a freehold property, then it's much more easier to check it with the registrar's office and making sure that the property is freehold. Again, you have to make sure that there are no acquisition proceedings which are there in the as far as the property is concerned. if it's under acquisition or any notice has been sent out by the government, then it would mean that you will not be enjoying the title of the property. Apart from that, I think the most important is making sure that the due diligence of the property is done. You have to make sure that physically the property is inspected by whosoever is buying the property.